a set, essentially you do the bit, you do your work and you explore various possibilities of the scene so that you kind of covered all bases in terms of giving options to the filmmaker, and in that, once the scene is done, then once the film is done, it's I sort of feel like it's none of my business what happens after.
Is that in a way, because the way that you explained it and described it, is that in a way frustrating? That maybe the response that you get playing music up on stage is, as you've been saying, it immediate, and with the movie you can't really tell afterwards.
Yeah, because I mean, as I said, it's immediate. So there's an immediate exchange with the audience when you're playing, and you're communicating through notes and lyrics and such. On a film, you're in the trenches. You do the work. That you've committed yourself to doing, and then the reaction, let's say, of the audience comes about a year later when the film is done and in the cinemas. So at that point, it's like, that's long gone. So all I have is the memory and the experience of playing the role. So or making the film. So I just walk away with that experience, and that's, I don't know, sort of plenty for me. I'd rather not, I don't know. I'd rather not see my stuff, because it just makes me uncomfortable, I don't like watching myself.
I think
it's
some
hard
of them
to
have
shave
watched
in the morning,
your stuff
actually.
plenty of times. Jonnny, talking about acting, keeping that in mind, that you say that the response is immediate playing music, what triggers your interest when it comes to scripts and characters? Because if you look at the variety of characters that you've played, it's just amazing what you have done. But what does a script or movie or producer or scriptwriter need to bring to you to get your interest?
It's you want to be surprised by something. You want to be surprised. You look for something that's not necessarily based on something that's altogether formulaic. You look for a character that someone has painstakingly written and offered you to play. So that's really what I get from it, is the actual work, the actual, diving into the character, locating the character, building a character, and trying, if at all possible, to do something, at least to try to do something that maybe hasn't been done to death, that's maybe just a bit different. There is a bit of, peril in that. But I think that that's also something that's incredibly important for an actor. I think that to walk in and do the sort of same thing every time, every film, every character is sort of this version of yourself, and they are versions of me, all these characters. But to go in and, I think one must tempt the possibility of falling flat on your face,
So taking risks is important. In a
yeah,
sense.
I think if you don't explore fully, commit yourself fully to the character and to the director's vision and to your vision and the author's vision, you owe that. I feel that I owe it to the people, to try something different, because I'd hate to bore you, So if I don't try something that could be potentially disastrous. I don't feel like I'm doing enough of the work, you know. I prefer when studios are scared.
Okay, you know, I have an example for studios being scared. Let's pick one particular pirate, and Captain Jack Sparrow. I mean, you could have played him like a typical hero pirate, but you made him into this crazy, surprising.
Was he crazy? I don't know.
A great character.
Thank you.
And there have been legends about, you know, what Disney thought about it when you first stepped on set. Maybe you can, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you went in creating Captain Jack Sparrow, and how it went sort of from that.
The initial thing, I mean, Captain Jack was written in the original screenplay. He was just written as a kind of swashbuckler, you know, just you kind of, you know, pirate who swings in, sword fights a little bit, and then you know, swings out, grabs a girl, and that's it. And then I had different ideas for him. Captain Jack was, this is gonna sound weird, he was actually born in a sauna. It's true.
Captain Jack was born in a sauna.
Yeah, he was, yeah. I was,
Whose sauna?
my sauna.
Okay, your sauna.
It's now his. I thought about this guy who I was just looking at various aspects of the character, and I figured this is a guy who's been in, you know, on the sea, you know, on the high seas for probably all his life, the majority of his life at least, and therefore had probably dealt with a lot of inescapable heat to the brain.
Makes sense.
So I cranked the sauna up to about 1,000 degrees, and I sat in there. I sat in there for as long as I could, until it started to affect me mentally. Which is to say, it was very, very hot, as was my brain. And then what happened is, while I was in there, in that kind of heat, you cannot stand still. But the worst of it is, if you move, it kills you. You know? So that in itself sort of gave me this kind of, yeah, I mean, his brain has been, parboiled to some degree. And then also, in terms of his body language, I felt that he would, on a ship, he would be fine. I mean, the thing could be, you know, bounding away, you know, but he would be fine. He's got his sea legs, but when he gets on land, he cannot get land legs. So therefore, he's a bit like that. And Disney disagreed.
For how long did they disagree? I mean,
Well, until the film was done. Until they were pregnant with me. Yeah, they had made some comments about, we did you do a film test, hair, makeup, wardrobe, all that, and you present the character, and when some of the executives came down to watch the tests and see what the actors looked like, there was this sort of large eyeball effect that was sort what's he doing? And then I got phone calls like, you know, you've got to lose the things on the dangly things. You got to I mean, you know, what's that sore on your face? And then they kept. Then I got phone calls like, please, what is he? What's going on? Is he? is he just like, you know, mentally like just gone? Has he just left the building a long time ago? Is he just incredibly drunk, or is he gay? You know. And so my answer was, I'm sorry, didn't you know that all my characters are gay? That was the last question they asked, and you know, they were uncomfortable, and I put it to them that they were welcome to fire me, you know, and replace me if they wanted to, and because I wasn't gonna change what I built, because I believed in it, you know, I believed in the character wholeheartedly. I felt that I don't know, I felt very comfortable with him, and I felt I was onto something. And also the fact that every time they complained or gave me that, or you could see them even peripherally while you're doing scenes, like the writers going, "That's not in the script." That's not in the script. And you could see all these worried faces. It actually, I found fuel in it, you know. It gave me fuel to go further. So I did. And then I think the next thing I heard, I was hearing about Michael Eisner, who was running Disney at the time, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Depp is ruining the film. We're going to have to subtitle him. Nobody can understand what he's saying. What is he doing? Oh, my God." I understand their worries, because the film that they had released prior to that was the Country Bear Jamboree, which I was not a part of. So,
I mean, that was, I think, almost 15, 16 years ago, and since then you've made a couple of more Pirates movies, and I mean, even all the rides at the Disney World parks, I mean, they're focusing on Captain Jack Sparrow.
it's weird, that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean,
Strange.
probably the greatest thing is, and I think that is something that you do so well, and that is something that is in your DNA, is that you visit kids dressed up as Captain Jack Sparrow, and sort of talk to them at hospitals and everything. So having created that character with all those difficulties and all these people who told you basically not to do it, how does that make you feel that a character is so dear to people's hearts and makes people so happy? I mean, kids and adults.
It was something that was completely and totally unexpected for me, because I'd essentially had a career of, well, with regard to the business, like in terms of Hollywood and the business and films that make money at box office and all that, I essentially had a career of about 20 years of failures in their eyes, you know. I mean, Ed Wood was a flop to them, and or, you know, any of the sort of stranger films or whatever. I mean, when I initially thought about Captain Jack, another thing to keep in mind is I had a 3-year-old daughter. Lily Rose was 3 years old at the time. So for 3 years, I'd watched nothing but animated, but cartoons, you know. So I watched tons of cartoons, a lot of Tex Avery, and at watching these things, you start to think, well, why are the parameters so wide? Why is it that Wile E. Coyote, for example, when he's chasing the Roadrunner, he can have a boulder dropped on his head, and then you cut to the next scene, and he's just got a little bandage on it. But people buy it, you know. That's the suspension of disbelief. You've got 5-year-olds who love Bugs Bunny. You've got 25-year-olds. You've got 85-year-olds who love these cartoon characters because they can get away with things that we can't. And so that was really my approach, was how do I infiltrate that kind of performance, or instigate that kind of performance where, again, maybe people from 5 to 85 or 95 or whatever can appreciate it, because he represents the side of us that we aren't able to get away with. He can get away with things that we can't get away with in everyday lives, you know. He can say anything and it makes no sense and people just go, right, you know. So I suppose, yeah, the ultimate irreverence was what I was looking for, and I found it. You know. But going to hospitals, oh, thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Very sweet, thank you. I was so appreciative of people, you know, taking Captain Jack into their lives, like, you know, they saw something, they found something in him, they could relate to something in him, and it was all generations. It was fascinating. So going into hospitals where there's, you know, very, very, very sick kiddies, you know, little kids, and their parents, and they're facing adult pain. They're facing the most difficult thing in life that any one of us will face, which is death. So if there's any way for me to go into a hospital like that, and at least take them out of that, or you know, give them some kind of, you know, jolt of, hey, you're going to be all right, kind of thing, you know, just, you know, fight it, keep fighting the good fight and all that. And then you see the courage in their eyes, the courage of these children, and you see these big smiles on their faces, and then you look in the corner and you see the parents melting, you know, just dying themselves. Yeah, I have to do it, you know. I feel I owe that at the very least, you know. So for me, it's satisfying to meet these amazing people, and it's heartbreaking. But if you've touched someone's life for just a second or a minute, you know, I'll do that for the rest of my days, you know. Thanks.
So we hope that Captain Jack Sparrow will return on the big screen as well.
Sorry?
That Captain Jack Sparrow might return on the big screen as well. I would like to touch upon two topics that you just mentioned. One is death, and the other one is, you know, being able to say things as Captain Jack Sparrow and then being able to get away with it. You brought a brilliant movie to the Zurich Film Festival, Richard Says Goodbye, and
Yes,
it has sort of in that sense, you know, because Richard is facing death in that movie, and on the other hand, he sort of starts to get away with doing stuff that he didn't do before, you know, prior to his to being diagnosed with a terminal illness. Is that something that you said is a challenge, and the character that you like? Because it's interesting that he does all that stuff, but at the end, you kind of sense that he is a lonely person, and he just wants to be loved by his wife and his kids and everyone around him, and he's just, you know.
Things go a little sideways for Richard, yeah.
What attracted you to the character? I mean, what did you like about Richard?
First and foremost, I'd met with the director, who's right here. Stand up. Stand up. This is Wayne Roberts.
Wayne Roberts.
Our writer-director. And we sat down to talk about it, and, you know, those meetings last for about, I don't know, normally an hour, and I think we ended up sitting and talking for about 9 hours, just talking and riffing, and the script, I just thought it was beautifully handled. It's rare that within the first 30 seconds of a film, the sort of the main character is given the news that he's about to croak, like any time soon, and that there's no chance. And then, there's what I loved about it is he never took a moment to sort of feel sorry for himself. He never, he was. I think it's a very smart thing to do, to avoid asking the question why. If you're in that situation, why me? Why you? Why everybody? So I think in a weird way he was making peace with it, and from making peace with it, therefore being able to have a sense of humor about it, and then saying, well, man, I've never done this before. Maybe I should try this. Or these things present themselves, and he just goes, yeah, sure. So what you're seeing is the guy just trying to keep all the pieces of his life together until he can find a way, to wander off into the distance and exit.
There's this one line when he sits down with his students at the bar, and he basically says to them, "Listen, we all know that we're going to die. Why don't we fucking live?"
It's the death. It's the news of his death, his impending death, that gives him the opportunity, the freedom to live. To actually say, all right, this is what I got. These are the cards I was dealt. I'm going to make the best of it. And were I in the same situation, I would do exactly the same thing. I'd just, go out and live, man. Go out and live and experience as much as you can, and avoid bitterness, and experience people, have a good time, and that's sort of what he did, especially by trying to make his boss as miserable as possible. He found great fun in that. Yeah.
It's a great movie. You have to check it out. Wayne Roberts, thank you so much, and Jonnny as the main character, Richard.
Thank you.
I would like to jump. I would like to jump back to like one of the first characters that you have created.
It's vodka.
Yeah, I have gin. Cheers.
It's vodka.
Good. Have more.
I mean, what?
What? The first collaboration with the person that you've probably worked with the most, Tim Burton.
Yeah, he's a special breed, that one.
Edward Scissorhands.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You've been talking about Captain Jack Sparrow and the way that you created him and basically went about him, and that you finally found him, and that you didn't want to sort of split with him. Tim Burton is probably the same kind of breed as you are. He does things that are just amazing in creating these movies and telling these stories. How do you two work together, and especially how did it come about with Edward Scissorhands? And was it sort of love at first sight between you and Tim?
I don't know. It was weird. It was strange. I flew to Los Angeles to have a meeting. Reluctantly flew to Los Angeles to have a meeting with Tim because I thought there was no way in the world that he was gonna give me that gig. At the time I was on a TV show that I was desperately trying to get fired off of, and they weren't interested in firing me for some reason. And I did far worse stuff on the television show that I've ever done for any character. I mean, you show up on set with a George Washington wig and a rubber band tied around the back of your tongue, So you have a speech impairment as your character. So I started using, like, character choice and saying, well, no, wait a minute now, you can't, you hired me to play this part, you can't mess around with my character choices. That's just not going to happen. Still, they didn't fire me. So I met with Tim, thinking this is a waste of time, and it's heartbreaking because I'd read the screenplay to Edward, and literally the thing touched me deeply. I mean, like, you're reading this thing, and tears pouring out of your eyes. And I knew the character. I just knew the character. I knew what he needed to be, and so I met with Tim at this coffee shop. I didn't know what he looked like, so the joint was packed, and I'm looking around, and then I see this skinny, fidgety dude with like sprigs of hair sticking out all over the place, and he was kind of like, playing with spoons and drinking coffee and kind of, drawing, and then, and I went, oh yeah, that's him. And that's the guy. And so I went over and sat down, and we proceeded to talk about the role and about stuff and our childhoods and this and that, and remarkably similar backgrounds. And we spoke for like 3.5 hours and drank, I don't know, 15 pots of coffee. So we're both zinging out of our skulls on caffeine. And Tim's arms are like all over the place, And I literally walked out of the coffee shop chewing on a spoon, like this metal spoon. And I thought, well, listen, it was great to meet the guy. He's really cool. And I didn't hear anything for a month, and then the phone rang, and I just heard this voice say, Johnny. And I said, yeah. I said, you're Edward Scissorhands. A month later, blew me away. So then we went full tilt and into finding Edward, and Edward was sort of based on, well, newborns and toddlers who sort of see things for the first time, and who can find the beauty or the fascination with, like, resin grapes or that, or everything's new, remote control. Wow. And a dog that I'd had, who was just the dog that I had was unconditional love, even if you reprimand them or scold them, and they sort of slither away into a corner, the second you call them back, eyes are filled with love, So that dog became sort of my basis for the character, and I think it was the first time that Tim or the screenwriter Carol Ann Thompson had ever had an actor start cutting out like 85% of the dialogue. They were like, actors always want to speak more, It seemed to me that Edward had his vocabulary would be limited, certainly, but limited to in a kind of an innocent way. Like, instead of